It's been 12 years since the last MG TF went on sale, the last genuine rival to the Mazda MX-5. But the long wait for the convertible MG is finally over. And boy has it changed. This is the MG Cyberster. Yes, this is the MG Cyberster, the only electric roadster currently available anywhere in the world, or very soon it will be available anyway. In a world that is overly saturated with boring SUVs and jelly mold saloons, this is the very antithesis of boring. Sexy, quick, electric, convertible, and with scissor doors to boot, this car is a poke in the eye of the status quo. And regardless of how this review goes, it's already chalked up the moral victory in my book. And what a thing to behold it is as well. I mean, it's quite a bit bigger than the original MG TF and therefore a bit heavier too, but it's every bit the sports car, especially these proportions. This enormous bonnet here, heavily sculpted, falls right off a cliff down here at the front into that big broad smile at the bottom. We've got 3-part daytime running lights there, they're quite attractive, and flared haunches here at the front that accommodate these 19-inch alloy wheels, multi-spoke, they look quite attractive, I like those. And along the side, of course, we've got this insane scissor door. I can't believe we have scissor doors on a roadster. No compromises whatsoever in attention seeking for this car. Again, that heavy sculpting from the front continues along the side here, very reminiscent of the 60s and 70s MG GTB. Squeezes up here to a very tidy waist and explodes over this shoulder, this waistline here. Very fat haunches. You'll see we have a double waistline here, a red one and a black one, just to accentuate the tidiness of that. And that streamlined design all comes together here with a really long deck and then a little ducktail just there on the back. MG have been quite keen to stress the camback design of this car, which is basically a sloping rear chopped off for good aerodynamics. And we've got that here. You can see it's accentuated by this N-shaped daytime running light across there. And underneath that, we've got a really deep recess. Embedded in that are our arrow-shaped daytime running lights, which just evoke the Union Jack and give you a little reminder of where MG came from almost 100 years ago. Down at the bottom, we've got an enormous diffuser as well, because of course this is a very sporty car. And we do get a trunk, or more of a hatch, I would say. It's actually quite deep, I would say, in terms of depth, but only about this high. So you can probably get maybe 2 24-inch suitcases in there. We don't have an exact number on how many litres, but not the worst space in the world. And of course, here we have our canopy, which is a soft top profile. That sits very tidily on the back here, comes up in just 10 seconds. Now I can't do that with the key, I can only show you that inside. So let's get inside and show you how it works. If you were expecting your usual Spartan MG interior, well, this is not going to happen on the Cyberster. This is a high-end premium place. We have Nappa leather everywhere. We've got microfiber on the chairs, on the A-pillars, and here in the doors as well. It feels very premium in here, as well as having these big metal speaker grates on there. But as you can see, it's more like a cockpit than a cabin. Everything is focused towards the driver. Everything is for me to be looking at. Passenger over here gets absolutely nothing. They don't get any screens to enjoy. Their job is to enjoy the thrill of the performance. That being said, there is still entertainment in this car, and as you can see, we've got 4 screens in here, 3 of which are curved here behind the steering wheel. On your left one, you get your trip meter, tire pressures, and your G meter in there as well. Then you get your cruise control. Central screen, of course, usual functions. Your entertainment is here on this little screen on the right, and you get on there videos, Bluetooth, radio, music, streaming services, things like that. So if you really, really want to watch a video in the car on a tiny little screen and lean to the side of the steering wheel, that's the one that you'll do it on. Not sure if you would want to do that, but there it is. Anyway, the 4th screen down here, not the easiest one to read with the roof down because you get quite a lot of glare on that screen, but this one controls your air conditioning, your ventilation, your battery, and your car features as well, like making your steering heavier and things like that, changing your lights and your ambient lighting. You've also got some buttons up here, 360-degree camera, that's quite useful. If you go on the 2D here, you can literally change between front and rear cameras on both sides, see exactly where your wheels are, that's quite good. Then you get a 3D model as well to spin your car around, see exactly what's going on all around. In terms of storage, well, we get quite a lot, but in little pieces. So we get a little pocket just down here in the door. Tiny little space, you can probably just about fit some sunglasses in there. You get little ones just either side of the console here, kind of a pen holder there, cup holders, little pocket in here with USB-C and USB sockets. You get a glove box in here as well, decent size, and then you get quite a useful bit of space here behind the seats, as well as, by the way, a little hook. So if you want to put your dog on the front seat and hook him into the car, you can do that with the hook behind the seats there. Elsewhere, we've got 6, I believe, Bose speakers, 2 massive ones in the doors, 3 up there on the dashboard, and I believe there's one just back here as well. So a high-end sound system for this car. And bear in mind, this is an expensive car. In Europe, this is going to cost about £59,000. So you're expecting high-end stuff, and you are getting it. Coming to the steering wheel, so we've got quite a lot going on here. So we get paddles on both sides. Your left one is for your KERS, so you can change your energy recovery on that side. The right side is for your mode. You get comfort and sport. You also get super sport here. You press that button on the steering wheel, get a nice sound effect. Let me just turn that 360-degree camera off. You can see now we get kind of an RPM meter on there. It's not really an RPM meter. And of course your G-force. Everything becomes focused throughout the driving experience once you press the super sport button. You get your cruise control on this side. Now, in terms of our seats, I would say we get a lot of support. I mean, look at the size of this bolster. Absolutely enormous side bolsters, decent chunky ones on the bottom. But it does feel certainly quite low down, as you would expect. It's a sports car, but you only get really 6-way adjustability on this chair. So you can move it forwards and backwards, up and down, and adjust the backrest. What I would really like is if you could just get a bit of tilt, just to give you a bit of support, to lift your legs up, feel a bit more like a bucket seat. But that's the only thing really that we're lacking in here. The steering is reach and rake adjustable, manual underneath there. And actually, the steering itself is very good, but I'll tell you about that later on when we drive it. What else have we got? Of course, I'm missing the most important part. Here we get our switches for the doors. So lift those up to lift the doors up, push them down to lift the doors down. And if you pull this one up, then you get your roof coming over. As I mentioned, it only takes 10 seconds. Actually more like 8 to get to here, then about 2 seconds while it locks itself in, keeps you nice and safe. And you can see now it feels kind of a bit more cozy inside here. Certainly not small though, it doesn't feel claustrophobic at all. It's really a very, very pleasant place to be. And as you can see, MG prepared some suitably British weather for us today. We've had a bit of changeable weather, quite heavy rain and a bit of sun, so we've been able to try the car out in both dry and wet conditions. The good news with that is, obviously this is a convertible and a soft top as well, so we were able to test out the water fastness of this in pretty much monsoon conditions, and so far no leaks anywhere, so plus point for that. Plus point as well for the fact that you can open and close this roof in just 10 seconds up to 50 kilometers per hour, which when the rain comes quickly, which it does here in Sanya, then you can manage to keep as much of your interior dry as possible. Bonus points for the roof there. But of course, you don't care about the roof. What you want to know is how does this thing drive. This car is tuned, the chassis is tuned by legendary F1 chassis tuner Marco Finello, and I can only say that he has done a chef's kiss job of this. The only other car that compares to this in terms of actually being like a sports car or a roadster is the Netta GT, and we really liked that. I mean, it was fairly numb as a sports car, but it handled well, it stayed quite flat, and it was quite sprightly. This car, of course, is considerably more expensive than the Netta GT at the same time, but it is so much more engaging as a car, as a sports car. You really feel it. The thing that they've done really well is disguise the weight. I expected this car to feel quite heavy, quite chunky, given that it is just under 2 tons, but you don't feel any of that at all. It feels so light, so nimble on its feet. It will change direction incredibly quickly and give you so much feel back through the steering at the same time. I wouldn't say the steering is quite as feelsome as the Polestar 2 in terms of feeling kind of quite hard and tight, but it definitely feels more delicate and it feels more refined, more light. So you can throw it around with total confidence. You can do it, you can make quick changes of direction, more long turns, and it just handles it all really, really nicely. It's an excellently tuned car. Even if you give it full beans, we've got the rear drive motor version, give it full beans on full lock out of a corner, it never gets unstable, doesn't feel like it starts scrabbling around. I imagine if you were to drive this car on a racetrack and give it full beans on a place where you can literally let loose with it, I imagine it would be very, very easy to drive on the limit. I think it's very forgiving. Doesn't feel like it is ever at all like it's on a knife edge. It feels very much within its comfort zone, and it's just an absolute pleasure to drive for several reasons. As I said, it's very supple at the same time as being very sporty, so the chassis stays completely flat even under heavy loads around sharp corners. You can't really get any body move out of it, and you don't get any scuttle shake. At the same time, it also gobbles up all the bad surfaces. So in Sanya we have some more choppy roads that are a bit more aggressive. This has no problem. You don't get any of that coming through the cockpit. No sharp kicks, no kind of body shake, anything like that. Really, really very finely set up. It's also actually very pleasant inside. So as well as that comfortable ride, it's very quiet in here. For a car that has a soft top roof, this is excellent. It is, with the roof up, it's quiet even at 120 kilometers per hour on the motorway, no problems at all. If you put the roof down, keep the windows up, it's still quite comfortable and quite quiet. Only really gets loud if you put the windows down and the roof at the same time. But as I mentioned, we get quite a bit of power in this car, and there are a few different options you can choose from. So there are two single motor versions, both rear wheel drive. You can get a 231 kilowatt motor or a 250 kilowatt motor. If you want to upgrade to the all-wheel drive version, you will get the same 250 kilowatt motor on the back and a 150 kilowatt motor on the front. So 400 kilowatts, about 528 horsepower, 720 newton meters of torque. And I apologize, they haven't yet given us any newton meter figures for the single motor version of this car. The single motor version comes with a choice of two batteries. So you get either the 64 kilowatt hour battery, that will get you 501 kilometers of range on the CLTC cycle. Sorry, I haven't been able to do any real world testing of that today, so I can't tell you how accurate it is, but 501 kilometers for the small battery, up to 570 kilometers for the larger battery, which is 77 kilowatt hours. If you go for the dual motor version of this car, that has the same 77 kilowatt hour battery, the larger one, and that will get you 520 kilometers of range on CLTC. There's no information yet on charging either, so I can't tell you how fast it charges. I would expect, honestly, 30 to 80% in about half an hour. You may get it a bit faster than that, but apparently this comes with the Rubik's Cube battery, whatever that means. I don't know if you can reassemble it and turn it into another battery with different colors on different sides. I don't think so. As I said, all versions are actually pretty rapid. The dual motor version in particular, because that will get you from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 3.2 seconds, which is absolutely lightning. Not quite as quick as a Zeekr 001 FR or a Tesla Model Plaid or a Lucid Air, but it's still pretty punchy. And in the single motor version, you can get either 4.6 or 4.8 second acceleration times, and I think that depends on the size of battery that you go for. So 4.6 seconds for a single motor car, not bad at all. That's up there. In fact, it's ahead of the Hyper GT, which is the other fastest single motor accelerating car that we've tried on this channel. But no, overall, it's a really pleasant car, very enjoyable to drive, lots of flexibility in the options. I gotta say, I mean, the screens can be a little bit overwhelming. I think if you put it into this super sport mode here, when of course everything tightens up and gets more focused, you get screens that are just focused on the driving experience in terms of your G meter. You can even do a timing for a 0 to 100 kilometer per hour sprint. You can press that on the left side there and test how fast you can get from 0 to 100. But no, it's a really comfortable car. In terms of size, as I said, it's way bigger than the original MG TF. It's about 60 centimeters longer. It is 25 centimeters wider and about 6 centimeters taller. So it comes in at 4.53 meters long, 1.91 meters wide, and 1.53 meters tall. It's got a wheelbase of 2.69 meters. So I suppose the question is, have MG delivered on what it was that they used to be known for? And I've got to say, they have not lost it at all. They've done a brilliant job with this car. It feels every bit the sports car. It feels really strong. Doesn't feel anything like as floppy as the TF felt, which of course wasn't quite as strong a car as this one. This one feels really well made. It handles really well on the limit. It's a really easy car to drive normally at the same time. And yeah, I think this is going to be an excellent Halo car for the MG brand, and a welcome return for MG sports cars. Hopefully we'll get an MG X Power version at some point in the future. So that's it for our review of the MG Cyberster. You know what? I think we've got a new favourite car of the year. I've driven some brilliant cars this year, all brilliant in their own ways. How many of them, though, can bring the sexiness, the drama, and the composure of this car all in one package? None. This car is special, really, really nice. Love these sports car proportions, love the tight little waist, the little crazy cockpit in there with all those screens, love the mad scissor doors, the convertible roof, and I love the way that it drives. Of course, it's an electric car as well, added bonus. This is a brilliant car. MG is definitely back. Thank you for watching, and if you do, thank you for subscribing. We'll catch you next time.